Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. So, let me know what you've been up to lately. What do you plan to do during our sprints today? I'll go ahead and share a lot of stuff. It's a lot going on right now. I did bring some popcorn since we are popcorn and poetry, but I will try not to eat while I'm talking because nobody wants to see that, right? So, I'm going to go ahead and get some health stuff out of the way. If you've been following my channel, then you know my husband and I have both dealt with some different health issues lately. My husband had to have a scan because he's been having thyroid issues. The good news is that the scan came back with there are no tumors, nothing like that is going on. But he has, as I mentioned before, been diagnosed with Graves' disease recently, and he's got a very, very hyperactive Graves' disease. So he has a follow up appointment with an endocrinologist in May to kind of figure out what we need to do as far as taking care of that thyroid issue, whether it's going to be controlled with just medication or whether he's going to have his thyroid removed. But the good news is, like I said before, no tumors, so nothing like that. My health, yesterday I had a routine colonoscopy, and once you're 45 and older, you're supposed to get one. I am 49, so I was a little past due on that. But I did have that lovely procedure yesterday, and everything looked fine with me too. And the good news is I don't have to go back for another colonoscopy for 10 years. So it's not pleasant, but we have to take care of ourselves, even the not so good parts. So, just quickly, as far as my mental health, I am on a new antidepressant, Trintellix, and it does seem to be working better for me than the Zoloft did. I had started Zoloft back in 2017, and it had worked for me ever since then. But the past several months, I've just been dealing with a lot more brain fog and a lot of dissociating and things like that. And a really, really hard time focusing and concentrating. So, after speaking to my psychiatrist, he decided that I would switch to Trintellix. And I do feel like it is working much better for me. So that's all the health stuff. That's a little update on both my husband and me. So far today, I've actually been productive, which is, I think, another sign that this new antidepressant is working for me because I got on up, got my daughter on the bus, got some makeup on, went to the drugstore to get some shampoo and conditioner, went to pick up my medication for my pets. I have a cat and a dog, and it was time for their monthly meds. And then I actually took a walk. So all of those things are very positive. Hey, Jackie, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, things are better for sure. So, what are you up to today? Are you working or what are you reading? What are you going to try to do to be productive? Um, I'll talk a little bit about what I hope to accomplish during these sprints in just a minute, too. But just kind of catching you all up on other things, like more fun stuff that I've been doing lately. Last Friday, I did watch Late Night with the Devil on Shudder, and I freaking loved it. I had so much fun with it. But I have a really, really huge affinity for the 70s, even though, okay, like I was born in 1975, so I don't exactly have, a recollection of what it was like to live in the 70s. But my parents, of course, they listened to music. And so I was listening to the music. I can remember watching Johnny Carson, the late show with Johnny Carson as a kid. So all of that nostalgia was definitely one of the reasons why I enjoyed Late Night with the Devil. And I went all out that day. My daughter and I, she is 23 and she is like my mini me. We're both huge into horror. She loves 70s stuff. So we both listened to 70s playlists like all day Friday. We both did makeup looks and clothes for 70s style. And then she came over and we watched the movie. So it was a lot of fun. I wouldn't say it was necessarily like scary, but then again, really nothing scares me, and everything scares my husband. And he watched it with us, and he actually had a good time too. So I really did enjoy it, and I'm super excited because another movie that I want to watch dropped on Shutter today, and that movie is Infested. And if you have arachnophobia, this movie looks to be your worst nightmare. I used to be afraid of spiders, and then I have since gotten over that. Now, that's not to say I want some, giant spider like suddenly dropping down on me or anything like that. But I don't really have that fear anymore. But I still feel like there's enough maybe in me that watching this movie about a spider infestation is probably going to make me a little bit queasy. I'm probably going to yank my legs up, get my feet up off the floor. But I'm excited for that tonight. Oh, I'm glad you have a free night tonight, Jackie. That's really good. Yeah, I finally uploaded. I see you talking about old school April. I finally uploaded or submitted some of my points, and then I need to submit some more. And I'm kind of waiting till the last to submit activities because I don't know what else I might get up to the next few days. Yes, I do. As you said, Jackie, I definitely want to rewatch Late Night with the Devil because there are so many little things. If you blink, you miss it. Some of the stuff my daughter was telling me about after we watched it, she was like, I didn't even notice. And she was like, XYZ. Like, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil anything. But I definitely want to rewatch it too. I just thought it was great. And the lead actor, David, I'm not even going to try to say his last name. He was so great as a talk show host. I really love his acting. He's been in some minor roles before, but I think he was just perfect to play that lead role in this movie. And I just had so much fun with it. Hi, Bad is Rad. Happy Friday. I'm glad you're here. What are you up to today? Let me know. We were just chatting about some of the movies that we've watched lately. Have you seen any good movies lately? What are you reading? Let me know all of that. What do you hope to do during Sprint today? So that's the movies I just talked about a minute ago. Uh, Books right now. I'm reading even more than usual. And that's saying a lot. And I don't mean like as in all of this month, because this month overall has been a bit slower for my reading than other months, but a lot of that had to do with the health issues that both my husband and I were having. Um, but right now I'm reading a poem for Popcorn and Poetry. Today I'm reading La Belle Dame Sans Merci by John Keats. And after we come back from the first sprint or the first break where we actually go and do stuff, if you would like, I will read that poem aloud and talk about it just a little bit. And of course, the group read for this month is the poem Christabel by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So if you haven't read that yet, you still have time. It's just one poem. And I have a live show. I would like to do a live show discussion of Christabel. So I'm going to put some polls up later today to see. I think I might have already done it one time, asking days and times that work best for everybody for a live show. So I'll probably go and revisit that poll and then put the schedule up for the live show discussion for the poem Christabel. And the only prompt for Popcorn and Poetry is to read any romantic era poem that features vampires or vampire symbolism. And I gave some examples in my video when I did the announcement. But also, after we come back after the first break, I will list those again in case you missed it before. So one of the things, of course, like I said, I'm rereading Christabel and then La Belle Dame Sans Merci. I am currently reading audio format for Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones, which is second in the the Indian Lake trilogy. The first is My Heart is a Chainsaw, which I finally got to at the beginning of this month, and I really loved it. And now I'm on Don't Fear the Reaper. And then the third one is The Angel of Indian Lake. And I have a really hit and miss kind of relationship with Stephen Graham Jones. I tried on 3 different occasions to read his book, The Only Good Indians, and I ended up having to just stop every time. That one didn't work for me. He's got a very unique kind of writing style. It's kind of stream of consciousness. It's kind of, in some maybe respects, all over the place, but it all has a point. It all comes together. I enjoyed a couple of his short stories, Night of the Mannequins and The Clown Brigade. But I got, that familiar feeling for a lot of us, FOMO, right? That fear of missing out. So I had to start My Heart is a Chainsaw. And I did listen to it on audio also. And the same thing is the case with The Clown Brigade and Night of the Mannequins. And I feel like that's the best way for me to go into a Stephen Graham Jones books is using audio, because I tried to physically read The Only Good Indians. So I'm wondering if I tried to listen to the audiobook, if I would actually be able to enjoy that one as well. So I am having a good time with Don't Fear the Reaper. If you're a fan of slashers, the series would definitely, well, I won't say definitely, probably work for you because it's an homage to slashers, to the final girl, but it's also got so much depth and emotion. Like, I actually cried at the end of My Heart is a Chainsaw. So there you go. I do suggest them, but I think audio may be the best way to go into Stephen Graham Jones, like I said, because of the way that he writes. I'm also reading an ARC ebook that I got from NetGalley. I was really excited to get approved for it. It is called Lucy Undying by Kiersten White. And it is a spin on the story of Lucy Westenra from Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I'm a huge, huge fan of Lucy from Dracula. And so anytime I can get a story of, that focuses on her and gives her more agency and gives her kind of a different, more empowered story than she gets in the original Dracula, I'm here for it. And if you like that too, you will probably enjoy Lucy Undying. I'm only on chapter 10, but it is just really hitting all those things that I needed to hit. And Gwendolyn Keist has a book called Reluctant Immortals, which is her reimagining of not only Lucy from Dracula, but also Bertha Mason from Jane Eyre. She gives them new stories and sets them in the 1960s, the Haight-Ashbury district. So you get all of that. So that's another one that you might enjoy if you would like to see Lucy get a more empowered story. Jackie, yes. Have you read Reluctant Immortals? Lucy and Bertha are both two of my favorite underappreciated women from all of literature. I actually, in grad school, wrote a paper on Lucy and Bertha after I read Reluctant Immortals by Gwendolyn Keist, which is kind of the fictionalized account, like I said, of Bertha and Lucy's after stories. But I was so moved by that book that I took an academic standpoint to find out why. I wanted to know, why is Lucy marginalized so much? Why is Bertha marginalized? And why do the men in Lucy's life work so hard to save her, whereas Rochester doesn't necessarily work too hard to save Bertha, right? He just sticks her in the attic and doesn't try to really do much of anything with her. But I won't go too much into all that academic stuff, but I really had a good time writing about both of them. Yes, yeah, I think you'll like Reluctant Immortals. It's really good. And Lucy Undying, the arc that I'm reading, comes out on September 10th. So I'll give a full review of it when I'm done. Like I said, I'm only on chapter 10, but I really like it so far. Let's see, what else am I reading? Like I said, I'm reading too much. I'm also reading House of Hollow by Crystal Sutherland. This had been in my TBR cart for such a long time. And I don't know, I just was kind of looking at what I wanted to read the other day, and this one just called out to me. And it is YA, which I won't say I don't like, because I do like some YA, but I'm very picky and very particular about the kind of YA that I like. But I am liking this one so far. It's interesting. So we have these three sisters that disappeared when they were children. They were gone for like a month, and our main character was 7, and then one of her sisters was 9, and one of her sisters was 11 when this happened. And when they came back, they were different. Like before they disappeared, they had dark hair and blue eyes. And then once they came back, they had, blonde hair that was so blonde it was like white, and they had black eyes, and they had some kind of strange sense, smell, that kind of sense. And also some strange kind of witchy like powers. And towards the beginning of this, the older sister goes missing again. So now her younger sister, who I said is the main character, and then the other sister, they're on this kind of mission to try to figure out what happened to their sister who's disappeared again, and also try to figure out where they were and what happened to them as children when they disappeared for a month. But it's like really weird because like flowers start to like grow out of their skin and stuff. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but I am enjoying it. So if you've read House of Hollow, let me know. What did you think of it? I've seen a lot of mixed reviews for it, so I'm interested to see once I get finished with it how I'll feel. And I'm about halfway through it and still enjoying it now. So let me see. I do want to show this stunning book. This is a 50th anniversary edition of Carrie by Stephen King, and it's from Stoddard and Houghton. I hope I'm saying that right. They are a UK publishing company, and I bought this for myself for my birthday. Carrie turned 50 on April, was it 4th or 5th? It's April 4th or 5th. I'm terrible now. I can't remember. But April 4th or 5th. And this book is so pretty. And then when you open it, it's got the red here. It's got a foreword or an introduction by Margaret Atwood, which was really interesting to read. And then it's got the introduction too from Stephen King that was actually in, the old editions of Carrie also. And the back here too says, to be invited to prom night is a dream come true for Carrie. And I'm sure most of us know that dream turns into a nightmare. I know, Jackie, I really did. Like, I cried, even though I knew I was getting it because I bought it for myself. When it came in the mail earlier this week and I opened it up and got to hold it, I cried a little bit. I'm sorry. I'm such a dork. Anyway, moving on to since we are talking a little bit about vampires, right? We talked about Lucy, and our popcorn and poetry theme is romantic era poetry with vampire symbolism. The first book that I'm going to read, and I'm buddy reading it with somebody, the first book I'm going to read in May is Immortal Pleasures by V. Castro. And this is about an ancient Aztec vampire. Just read the back to you. Roams the modern world in search of vengeance and love in this seductive, dark fantasy from the author of The Haunting of Alejandra. And I loved The Haunting of Alejandra. I gave that book 5 stars. It resonated so deeply with me that I did a personal response video. And I can link that if anybody's interested, but you can find it on my channel under Weekend Wind Down. It's easy to find because so far that's the only Weekend Wind Down video I've recorded. But that one just hit me and I just loved it so much. So the rest of the synopsis here for Immortal Pleasures, and let's look at this cover. Okay, this woman, absolutely stunning, right? Hundreds of years ago, she was known as, I hope I'm saying this right, La Malinche, a Nahua woman who translated for the conquistador Hernan Cortez. In the centuries since, her name has gone down in infamy as a traitor, but no one ever found out what happened to La Malinche after Cortez destroyed her people. In the ashes of the empire, she was reborn as Malinali, an immortal vampire, and she has become an avenger of conquered peoples, traveling the world to reclaim their stolen artifacts and return them to their homelands. But she's also been in search of something more, for this ancient vampire still has deeply human longings for pleasure and for love. When she arrives in Dublin in search of a pair of Aztec skulls, artifacts intimately connected to her own dark history, she finds something else. Two men who satisfy her cravings in very different ways. For the first time, she meets a mortal man, a horror novelist, who is not repelled by her strange condition, but attracted by it. And there is also another man, an immortal like herself, who shares the darkness in her heart. Now Malinali is on the most perilous adventure of all, a journey into her own desires. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Let's see. And music, yes, this may surprise you. I don't know. Some people don't put horror and Taylor Swift together, but actually, I've seen a lot of convergence of the two. I am a Swiftie, and I have been just playing the hell out of the Tortured Poets album, the double album, right? We got like 31 new songs. And can I pick a favorite? No, they're. I love the albums. I love the songs. So yes, I'm a Swiftie, and I'm having a great time listening to that. So that's the music that's been on repeat in my life right now. Um, Now this first sprint, I'm not going to be reading. I've got all this stuff right that I need to read and that I'm going to read. But the first sprint that we have today, I'm actually going to be working on an Edgar Allan Poe class that I'll be teaching in September. It's an entire semester devoted to the works of Edgar Allan Poe. So I'm working on right now the discussion questions and analysis for what we'll be reading. So I really need to get that done because I haven't done any work on it this week, just with health issues. And there was no working, of course, Wednesday, which was the day I had to prep for yesterday's colonoscopy. So if you know, you know. But today I do need to get some work done on my Poe class. So I feel like y'all can hold me accountable to that, right? To make sure I do my work for Poe. So right now I will pull up our Pomodoro Kitty, and let me see if I can get that pulled up real quick. And let's see. And I will go ahead and we'll start with 45 minutes. After we come back, if anybody wants to change that to 30, we can do that. But we'll just start right now with 45. So let me get our kitty counting down, and I hope everyone is productive during this time. Hello, welcome back. I hope everybody was productive or got some reading done during that sprint. If you're just joining, tell me what you've been up to today. What's going on with you? What are you hoping to read or work on during these sprints? I realized in our last chat portion of the live stream, I forgot to show the comments on screen. So I apologize to anyone who was watching because you didn't get to see the comments. So I just want to see our last comment here. Jackie says she's headed home and hopes that I have a wonderful weekend if she's not back before I conclude. So thank you, Jackie. I hope you have a wonderful weekend too and get to enjoy some time off. So I mentioned that when we came back after the break before, that I would read the poem that I am currently reading for Popcorn and Poetry and talk a little bit about it. This is not our group read. This is just one that I'm reading today. Our group read is Christabel, and I'll be talking about a live discussion chat for that later. But this is another poem, and this is La Belle, can't even talk. La Belle Dame Sans Merci by John Keats, which means the beautiful woman with no mercy. So, hey, Lauren, how are you? What are you up to today? What are you hoping to get accomplished during sprints? During the last sprint, I worked on an Edgar Allan Poe class, a semester class totally devoted to Edgar Allan Poe that I'll be teaching in September. So I'm trying to get everything together for that. So that's what I was working on during the last sprint. So yeah, coffee. Yeah, it's about time for me to have my third cup of the day soon. So tell me, what are you reading and are you enjoying that? Let me know. So we'll talk a little bit about the poem La Belle Dame Sans Merci. But before we do, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of the sublime, which was a very important concept in the Romantic era. And the sublime is kind of like this idea of something that evokes both awe and terror. For example, it was just used to describe a lot of elements of nature. Mountains would be seen as sublime because they're beautiful, but they can also evoke that terror in you because you realize just how much bigger than you nature really is. The ocean also evokes feelings of the sublime. It's beautiful. Many are drawn to it, right? But there's also that terror. And one of the most prominent symbols in Romantic poetry for this idea of the sublime is the concept of the vampire, because we are drawn to the beauty, but there's also the terror. And even within the idea of the terror, that also pulls us into it too, that allure of something dangerous, right? And it only adds to the allure when that something is beautiful. Yeah, sublime. Yeah, it can be tricky. One of the books that I had to read and study in grad school about the sublime is from Edmund Burke. And this is Edmund Burke's definition of the sublime. So I'll just read a few quotes from this, but not too much because it can be just a little bit much. But one of the things that Edmund Burke talked about in terms of the sublime is that whatever, this is a quote again from Edmund Burke, whatever is fitted in any sort to excite the ideas of pain and danger, that is to say, whatever is in any sort terrible, or is conversant about terrible objects, or operates in a manner, and now I don't even know how to say this word, even though I read it all the time, analogous, so like in an analogy to terror, is a source of the sublime. That is, It is productive of the strongest emotion which the mind is capable of feeling. So it's almost irresistible, right? And that definitely fits into what we think of when we think of vampires. They're beautiful. They have this power, right? This irresistible power. So in the poem that I'm reading today, La Belle Dame Sans Merci, we see that this beautiful woman has had this power over a knight. So often we, of course, would think of knights as being brave and strong and able to resist that kind of temptation. But something about this beautiful woman, right? This La Belle Dame Sans Merci, beautiful woman without mercy, has been completely irresistible to our knight. So I'm going to try to, like I said, let me see if I can pull up the poem and read it aloud. And this just gives a little bit of an idea about some of the concepts that we would get deeper into when we do Christabel. So this is La Belle Dame Sans Merci, and it is a ballad, and it is by John Keats. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, so haggard and so woe-begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest's done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist and fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long. For sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy's song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew, and sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore. And there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses for. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed. Ah, woe betide! The latest dream I ever dreamt on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame Sans Merci, thee hath in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here on the cold hillside. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake and no birds sing. So a little bit of background too, and this, and I'll go stopping the share for right now and find myself back. Here we are. Yes, this is written by John Keats. So yes, one of the most famous romantic poets. In that second generation of romantic poets, that first generation would be William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And then that next generation is the most famous, I would say, would be Lord Byron, and then John Keats and Percy Bysshe Shelley. So yes, I am too fascinated. Yeah, because again, we have this idea of this vampish woman, right? This sucking away of life. Now, some scholars have said that this poem is reflecting John Keats' struggles with his brother who had tuberculosis. So it's a metaphor possibly for the way that tuberculosis was stripping his brother of life, draining him, right? But it's interesting that he's chosen a woman to symbolize that, right? And John Keats himself also did die from tuberculosis. So the femme fatale, or the female vampire, was a very prominent concept during the Romantic era. And this is actually some of the stuff I'm going to talk about in just a minute is from The Living Dead by James Twiddle, and it is a study of the vampire in Romantic literature. So he also talks about male vampires too. But in this poem, John Keats, we notice at the beginning, right, that someone has come upon this knight and is asking these questions. Why are you looking so woebegone, knight at arms? And we have that ask again too. So that repetition of that question, which kind of leads us to start asking the same question too. What is wrong with this knight? Why is he pale? What's happening? What has happened to him? Interestingly enough, too, a few months later, John Keats wrote an epic poem about a female vampire called Lamia. And Lamia is often a term that's used for vampires, too. But a lot of people kind of see La Belle Dame as kind of a precursor to Lamia. One of the things that I forgot his name, Twitchell talks about here is how in this form we have this characteristic of vampires. Notice how in the poem, and I should probably just kind of flip back to it too. Hey, Alicia, I'm glad you joined us. I was kind of going off a deep dive here about La Belle Dame Sans Merci. So we were talking a little bit about the vampire symbolism in it. So I will try to pull that screen back up and let's see. Yes, here we are. So some of the ways that we see vampire symbolism in here, palely, right? This knight is pale, so that's indicative that his blood has been drained by someone or something. The sedge has withered from the lake, so the plant life is starting to wither and die. No birds are singing, so it's the absence of life, right? This draining away of life. And I mentioned before the repetition, right, of this same question at the beginning of the first and second stanzas. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms? So something that Keats is really wanting us to focus on then would be to question, to wonder what has happened to this strong, brave knight, that he's now pale and he's sick. And again, this haggard and woebegone, right? If we think about someone's blood being drained from them, they would look haggard, they would look despairing. And then he talks about flowers here. And that's another element that we see often in Romantic poetry, this tying in of nature with emotion, because the Romantics were very obsessed with nature and how nature could be used to symbolize emotions, and they like to tie those kind of things together. But the Romantic era was also a backlash against the era of enlightenment and reason, right? Where you started to deal more with emotions and feelings and that concept of the sublime that we talked about a minute ago. So here with the flower symbolism, I see a lily on thy brow. So pale again, right? The lily white. And also lilies often are tied to funerals, right? And this idea of mourning. And then he says, on thy cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too. So again, that symbolism of the red rose and it's fading. So blood loss, right? And then the knight answers back, I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Now, something else that's interesting here too is this idea of fairies and Celtic folklore. So John Keats was Irish, so he would have been very familiar with Celtic folklore and the fear of the fairy kingdom. So for those who were in that region, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England, the fairy world was something that they were very afraid of. So these would not be the kind of fairies we think about, like Tinkerbell and the fairy godmother. These were terrifying creatures who could come and replace your loved ones. There was this idea that if your baby, for example, was starting to act out of nature, starting to have tantrums, cry all the time, that your baby had been replaced by a fairy changeling. The fairies had come and stolen your actual child and replaced it. And so the fairy world was very threatening. You wouldn't want to make them mad, right? You want to appease them. So he's connecting this, saying that this woman, this La Belle Dame Sans Merci, is a fairy's child. So something is threatening about her, right? But she's beautiful. She's got that element of the sublime. She's terrifying, but she's beautiful. So he's being pulled toward her, right? He describes her hair as long, her foot is light. So she seems to be very dainty, right? But her eyes were wild. So that gives us some kind of clue that there's something not so dainty about this woman. But he's in love with her anyway, just immediately, pretty much, right? He makes a garland for her head, bracelets. And he said that she looks at him as she did love and made a sweet moan. Well, if she's a vampire, she's going to look at him longingly, right? Because here's this healthy young man who has fallen under her spell. And that sweet moan, right? It's desire, but is it a sexual desire? Is it a desire to literally consume him? Probably both, right? Because she's a vampire. And then he puts her on his horse and all he can see is her, right? And she bends and she sings a fairy song. So she is just keeping him completely under her spell all the time. And she gives him strange food, right? Roots, honey wild, manna dew. So manna would be like bread from heaven, right? So she's giving him some kind of food that he can't get in the regular world. That can also be symbolizing fairies too, because if you went into the fairy realm and you ate the fairy food, then you were forever tied there. And that's the concept we see in like Greek mythology too. When Persephone eats the pomegranate in the underworld, she's tied to the underworld and she can never fully escape. So again, we've got this idea of being caught or trapped and not able to escape. And he says that she tells him in a strange language, I love thee true. So maybe she did say that, but it would just be to keep him lured in. Maybe he only hears what he wants to hear, right? And then he is swept away, right? Taken to her elfin grot. So again, the idea of the elves or fairies, something otherworldly. And he shuts her eyes with kisses for. So that's another concept that can be discussed too. In vampire stories, vampires typically, whenever they're sleeping, they will have their eyes open a lot of times. And so this idea that he's having to kiss her eyes closed is one that is worth a discussion, but also because some say, according to, again, this is not my thought. This next thing is from James Twitchell that I mentioned in this book, The Living Dead. He talks about how some scholars say that the 4 kisses is like a connection to something being unholy, with 3 being considered the perfect number or the holy number because of the Trinity concept. So by John Keats adding a 4th, having 4 kisses instead of 3, that is showcasing the demonic kind of nature of this vampire. And then our knight says he's lulled asleep, right? And he has this dream, but it's possibly not just a dream. Possibly he's getting a vision of what is really happening around him, where he sees other pale kings and princes, pale warriors, death pale. So again, these are the men that she has already sucked the blood from, right? Who are lying there in the same state that this knight is about to find himself in. And they warn him, right? They tell him, La Belle Dame Sans Merci, thee hath enthralled. She's enthralled him, right? He is under her mastery. He's her servant now. And he sees that they're starved, right? Because she has stripped all the life out of them. Again, we have this idea of a warning with horrid warning gaped wide. I awoke and found me here. So he says he found himself after his dream on the hillside, but it's pretty clear that he really saw those other men that he saw, because now we see him just lying there again, palely loitering. And we don't have the La Belle with him anymore, right? This woman is not, this beautiful woman is not with him now. She's left him to go and find other sources of sustainment because she has used him up, so to speak. So again, this ties into that idea of the sublime, that this knight noted that there was something off about this particular beautiful woman, but he was still pulled to her. So she evoked that awe and terror, that desire and fear, and she was irresistible to him. So that was a long little jaunt there. But I do love Keats. He is one of my favorites. He probably is my favorite of the romantic poets. So that's why I really like to talk a lot about him. Yes, Major Enlightenment, John Locke. I'm trying to think of some others because I did not go into, when I was in grad school, a deep study of the Enlightenment. I focused more on the Romantic and Victorian eras, but John Locke is one, and I would have to look up to see some of the other Enlightenment writers. So Romantic era and Victorian era are my two favorites. So that was a long, I don't know what, of La Belle Dame Sans Merci. So I will let us go to another set of sprints. This time I'm just going to do 30. And when we come back, we'll see what everybody got up to. I am going to try to do a little bit of more work on my Poe class, although I'm starting to feel like the momentum I had earlier in the day is on a decline. So I have until September, but that's not always a good thing because I don't want to keep saying, month after month over the summer, oh, I have until September to finish planning. I have until September. And then it's, the end of August and I'm like, oh crap. So I am going to at least get a little bit more done on my Poe class today. So I hope you have a nice, productive sprint, and I will go ahead and I need to adjust to our Pomodoro Kitty. So let me fix that to 30 minutes instead of 45. All right. I still feel like a little out of sorts sometimes trying to get all the live stuff done when I'm doing these sprints. But this is only my second time to be the one that's actually doing them instead of being a guest like on somebody's lives. So hopefully I will get better each time, where it won't take me quite so long to get stuff pulled up and going. But here we go. We'll do 30 minutes and I'll see you on the other side. Hey, what did everybody get up to? I realized after I had walked off from my laptop that I had not started the timer. So we actually got more than 30 minutes. I'm telling you, I cannot seem to get hitting on all cylinders with this sprint today because the first time I was on here chatting, I forgot to share the comments to the screen. Then I just forgot to set the timer. So anyway, I thought my new medication was helping my focus, but maybe it's not helping it as much as I thought. So I did get a couple of things done as far as my PO class goes over that break. I worked on creating some slides for the class and then taking some notes about which literary concepts and things like that I want to cover the first 3 weeks of the class. So let me see what everybody else got up to. A KU horror book set in a mall. That sounds interesting. I have KU, so let us know, Lauren, what that book is, and did you enjoy it? I don't know how much you were able to get into it during the sprint, but how's it going so far? So I wanted to also talk about a few more things as far as vampire symbolism in romantic era poetry. One of the things that I wanted to mention, if you want a woman's perspective, and I did talk about her poetry in my announcement video, but I will give you her name again. Letitia Elizabeth Landon. It's often abbreviated LEL, but she was a woman poet who was writing during the Romantic era, and she's often been called the female Lord Byron. So again, that's kind of just reinforcing the idea that Lord Byron, as a male, was much more popular and had a lot more opportunities for getting his name out there than Letitia Elizabeth Landon did. But she is a wonderful romantic poet. And it's escaping me now the poem that I suggested of hers that has some vampire symbolism, but that is in my announcement video. But I will try to bring that back after. We'll do one more sprint and then I will give you the name of her poem then. So let's see. Alicia is eating lunch. Oh, yeah, the familiar. I keep seeing that. And it is very intriguing, but I didn't know that it was a vampire book. I hadn't looked at it enough. I've just been kind of enchanted with the cover and the name of it. So let us know how that goes, Alicia. I'd love to know what you think of it because I can always add it to my TBR along with everything else, right? But I wanted also to mention too some male vampires because so far most of my focus has been on the female vampire in romantic poetry, but there were also males depicted as vampires in romantic poetry too. So a couple of poems by Lord Byron. One of them is called The Giaour, and that one has vampire symbolism, although just a little bit. The other one of Byron's that has more prominent vampire symbolism is Manfred. And Manfred is what Byron wrote during the infamous Year Without a Summer, in which he and Mary Shelley and Percy Bysshe Shelley and Mary Shelley's stepsister, who was also having an affair with Byron, and also Byron's doctor, John Polidori, that they spent that summer in Switzerland where they were holed up most of the time inside the villa because the weather was so bad. And the challenge that I believe it was Byron who issued the challenge to see who could write the most terrifying or the scariest story. And that is when Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein. Whoops. And as I mentioned, Byron wrote Manfred, and his doctor, Byron's doctor, John Polidori, wrote The Vampire, which is a short story or novella. A lot of times it was initially attributed to Lord Byron himself, but it was not Byron who wrote it. And John Polidori patterned his male vampire on Lord Byron. So that's also where we get that term of the Byronic hero. So those are a few suggestions for vampires that depict, or stories that depict male vampires, stories, poems. Another poem is by Percy Bysshe Shelley called The Cenci, Cenci, and that is a poem that features a male vampiric figure. So I thought I'd give some not only perspective on male vampires, but also let you know of Letitia Elizabeth Landon, or LEL, a woman romantic poet. So let's see. Let me check these comments. I want to make sure I don't miss any. Yeah, thank you, Alicia. Yeah, I definitely love to know what you think of it. That's great. 52%, over halfway. Good progress. Late breakfast. I just had popcorn for lunch a little while ago. It was super healthy, maybe not, but it's popcorn and poetry, so that's all right. And Alicia asked Lauren what she's reading. I want to know too. Blood Mall, a mall that gets taken over by a religious cult. Oh, see, that sounds very interesting. So I hope you are enjoying it. Let us know. If you keep up your progress, you may be finished with it over the next sprint. And like I said, I have KU, so that might be something I want to add to mine. So I know I talked a whole lot during this last time. I talked all about, see, there goes my brain again. What was the poem that I read? La Belle Dame Sans Merci. Yeah, we talked a long time about that earlier. So I'll try not to keep us on here too long right now so we can get into that last bit of reading or productivity. So I'm going to do one more 30 minutes, and this will be our last sprint. And when I come back, we will say goodbye. And I hope everybody gets some reading or something productive done during this next sprint. So let me remember this time to take care of doing the timer. I'm going to hope that I don't forget, since I'm sitting here talking to you right now about it, forget to start the timer when it's time to start. So we'll do 30 minutes, and I think I'm going to have to just close one of them down and start this whole thing again, because I can't figure out how to get it reset. It's still counting down. So I'll get better one day, right? So let me bump it up to 30 minutes. And why is it still saying 25? You know what? We'll do 25 minutes. I don't know what's going on, but yeah, 25 minutes, and I will see you on the other side. Me and this Pomodoro kitty are about to have a fight here. I was muted. You know what, y'all? This is a day. Yeah, I was just saying that Alicia was talking about having Blood Mall on her radar. Me too, and that Lauren is shocked when KU books are great. I have that same shock initially, but I found so many really, like, I guess, hidden gems on KU, ones that I picked up because I was just intrigued when I was looking for something, and they turned out to be really good. So let me once again, try this. I'll put up the timer now. And then we will have a little less than 25 minutes before this day is done. I need a drink. I think I need a drink. Oh my goodness. Let me get the screen up. I'm back now. I did during that time make myself some coffee because clearly my brain needs some caffeine and it needs something to help it along because it's just been one of those days. I started off so productive and proud of myself because I got up and took a walk. I got makeup on. I went to the drugstore to get shampoo and conditioner. I picked up the pet medications. I did a little bit of cleaning. So I thought, okay, my brain's on target. It's on task. My new medication's working. And then everything has seemed to just go like implode since I started these live sprints. But thank you so much for hanging with me. So over that time, I did not do any more work on my Edgar Allan Poe class. I was like, you know what, my brain is not in the right space for that now. So I decided to table that. Like I said, I have till September, so I just need to kind of pace myself and do a little bit at a time. Other than making coffee, I don't really know exactly what else I did, but I did start reading the LEL or Letitia Elizabeth Landon poem that I mentioned. So I put it in the comments here. So let me pop that up. That's a link to The Fairy of the Fountains by LEL or Letitia Elizabeth Landon. And it is a lengthy poem, but it is well worth the read. Like I said, she is very much underrated and underknown as a woman romantic poet. And I want her to get more love and attention. So I encourage you to read not just The Fairy of the Fountains, but also her other work too. Um, I know, right? Alicia, nothing ever seems to go according to plan. It's like my life just feels a bit out of sorts now. Like I've mentioned when we first got on Sprint, if you've been following me, you know, my husband's had some health issues. I've had some. So this month has just been a whirlwind of just craziness, even more than it is usually. So I'm just glad I can somehow still keep going anyway. Oh, travel plans. Where are you going to next, Lauren? You're always taking these most amazing trips. I'd love to know where you plan to go next, if you can tell us. I'm on kind of a travel down low right now, not really going much of anywhere since we just took that big trip to Chicago at the end of March and everything. So I'm just kind of now thinking about where I'm going next. San Diego. Okay. You know, I have only been to California once and only in the airport, LAX, whenever this has been a long time ago, like back in 2002. Yeah, 2002. My husband and I went to Hawaii. So that's the only time I've actually been in California is just in the airport. But I do want to go to California. It's definitely a state that I would like to visit one day. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Lauren always has these most amazing trips that I can live vicariously through her because she does the best job with her YouTube travel vlogs. It's always, makes me feel like I'm almost right there, right? So, Lauren, I know you'll probably vlog your trip. So, no pressure here, but we we want to see it. No, that's okay. I'm glad that you came. Uh, Yes, definitely. It is a long poem, The Fairy of the Fountains, but it is very good. And I'm trying to spread the love for LEL. Jackie, you made it back. 10 days in a madhouse. That sounds like my autobiography. So let us know let us know what 10 days in a madhouse is about. I would love to know. I'm glad you have beautiful weather. We actually have beautiful weather here too. Um, Now, why did that cat just meow? You know what? I don't know what's happening with that cat. I don't know. Maybe I had two timers going. I'm telling y'all. the productive day just kind of went for me. Uh, but yeah, I was talking about the weather here. Yeah, it's nice. It's starting to get a little bit too warm where I am in Alabama here on the Gulf Coast. That humidity is starting to creep up already, and I just absolutely dread summer. But I'm glad that you're having a wonderful New Jersey afternoon. Let's see. That is so true. Having the experiences rather than achievement. I'm so glad to hear that. Healing from professional burnout. I totally get that. I think that's part of my problem right now too. Um, since I just finished my master's in English. Well, I finished my thesis in September last year and then graduated in December. And I'm feeling a little of that, or probably a lot of burnout on stuff. And then trying to plan this class for September, the classes I'm teaching, I'm starting to feel a little bit of burnout there too. So I probably need to try to figure out some of the things I can do to alleviate some of that. And then all this personal, health stress too is not conducive to being able to focus like I need to. That's what I said. Yes, exactly. Right. Living vicariously through Lauren's travels. So we love to follow along. I'm glad you got to come to, Alicia, and thank you all for coming, showing up. I'd like to say that my next time I do the sprints will go better. I hope so. I hope I'll be a little bit more mentally with it. Um, I don't know. I don't know. My mental health right now is just very roller coaster, even more than it's been in the past. So I'm hoping that this new medication I'm on is going to be a solution that works. But I guess we'll just see. Like I said before, I'm very open and honest about my mental health because not only, is that just me and that's my life and that's me being authentic, but I also feel like it helps other people to know that they're not alone because for the longest time, I thought I was alone in this. And it's very important to me to let other people know that they're not the only ones who are having to deal with these mental health issues. Let's say an investigative report. Now, see, that sounds like something that would be very interesting for sure because I don't know, I've probably talked about it before. When I tried to take my own life in 2017, I did have to spend a week in inpatient care at a psychiatric facility. And I had some good experiences while I was there, but I also saw some things that were not so good without a doubt. So yeah, I think I would like to read that. That does sound interesting and like a very important read. So I will close these out now and try to finish this coffee. And I'm going to watch that movie I mentioned at the beginning of Sprints. If you weren't here, Infested, which is streaming on Shutter today. It's about a spider infestation. So all my friends who are arachnophobic, Lauren, let me know if you're going to watch Infested. I would love to. I would love to know. I can imagine. Yeah, the late 1800s. I can only imagine how horrific that would have been. I've read and seen a lot about that time period, and I know that is just we have a lot of issues in mental health care today and lack of proper care, but nothing like it used to be for sure. Bye, Alicia. Bye. Yes, I can't wait to see what we think about Infested. So I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I'm going to unplug a little bit and read something just for fun, not for academic reasons. Drink my coffee and prepare myself for that movie tonight. Thank you all. Bye. Bye. See you next time.